if we really were teetering on the verge of the worst crisis of the Great Depression, does anybody think the government averted it just by printing up a bunch of money? At best, all they did is delay it, which is in fact what they did. And the thing is, we weren't on the verge of another Great Depression, but now we are, because of what they did. Yes, it would have been painful had we allowed banks to fail. Sure, a lot of people would have lost money, but now a lot more people are going to lose a lot more than just money. Because before, the crisis was about losing money. Now the crisis is going to be about your money losing its value. So it's not going to matter that you still have money in the bank if you can't buy anything with it. You know, right now you can see a glimpse into what's going to happen. Look around the world. Right? Look at countries. First it happened in Iceland, a tiny little country up north, and then all of a sudden it was Greece. And then it was Ireland. And now they're looking, maybe it's Portugal. But what's going on with all these countries? They have too much debt. And all of a sudden, their creditors are thinking, you know, I don't think you guys can pay this back. And they don't want to lend them any more money. And the interest rates are rising. You know, Ireland doesn't have much more debt than it had a year ago. Why weren't they having a crisis a year ago? Because the bondholders didn't care about it a year ago. They care about it now. Well, that's what's going on in the United States. You know, you remember the mortgage crisis, because it wasn't too long ago. When the mortgage crisis first started to happen, our leaders, like Ben Bernanke, don't worry about it. It's contained. It's just some tiny little piece of the mortgage market. Don't worry about it. Right? Yeah. It was contained. I mean, it was James Grant said it was contained in the planet Earth. And I criticized this at the time. But I said that, look, it's not a question of the problem spreading from subprime. It's not like a disease and it's going to infect the other markets. I said that the problem already encaptured the entirety of the mortgage market, prime and subprime. It was just the subprime was kind of the weakest link, like the tip of the iceberg. So we were able to see the subprime problems first. So it wasn't a question of contagion. The whole market was already sick. The question was, when would the symptoms show up? And of course, it didn't take too long before the symptoms showed up in the prime mortgage market. Well, then we're hearing the same thing from the same people about sovereign credit risk. Worry, it's just contained to these European countries. Like, it's not going to affect the United States. Because after all, they're saying they can't print money. That's what I hear all the time. You see, they can't print money in Ireland, as if the fact that we can print money gives us a get out of jail free card. The fact that we can print money makes it worse. The fact that Ireland can't means that they actually have a chance. They might actually cut government spending. Here in America, we can go, gee, we don't have to cut anything because we can print. Well, you know, there's not that much of a difference between inflation and default. Right? Creditors in Europe are fearful of default. And so they're pricing that into the bonds. See, all of a sudden, what created the problem in Ireland wasn't the debt, it was the cost of service of the debt, which shot up. Right? That's the same problem that Americans had with their adjusted rate mortgages. When you still had your teaser rate, there was no problem. The problem was when it reset. Right? And the mortgage payments doubled. But of course, it was a problem all along, just nobody wanted to acknowledge it. Well, we're in the same situation. And even if our creditors take us at our word that we will never default, that we will just print, right? They will fear that. Because that, was it 5 minutes up already? I got 15 minutes on this. Right. So they will fear inflation, just like they will default. And when they do, they will exact a higher cost to our interest. And just like the Americans who took a teaser rate, our national debt, our $14 trillion national debt, is financed with short-term paper. I think it all wants to roll over. I think in the next year and a half, it's something like 7 or 8 trillion has to be rolled over. And most of our creditors have already smartened up, and they've shortened up their maturity, so they got one foot out the door already. You know, the Chinese companies don't have to sell anything. They just have to let their bonds mature and just not buy new ones. And what's going to happen is rates are going to rise. We'll see. They're starting to rise now. I mean, the yields are already moving up. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. But what's going to happen is it's going to become increasingly more expensive for the Treasury to finance the debt. And what's also going to happen is this new deficit spending, but now they call it quantitative easing. Because I guess it sounds better than printing money. How about quantitative easing? But all of this is not going to generate economic growth. It's not going to generate employment. In fact, it will inhibit both. But it will generate inflation. It will cause the price of goods to rise, the price of food and energy to rise. And we're going to be in a situation where, whether it's in 2011 or 2012, the market is going to be calling the Fed bluff. Because inflation will be rising, interest rates will be rising, and then the Fed is going to be forced to do what it refused to do in 2008. And that's raise interest rates into a weakening economy and shrink its balance sheet, sell treasuries, sell mortgage-backed securities into the recession. And then we're going to have the real economic crisis that was averted or postponed in 2008, only it's that much worse because we're that much deeper into debt. We have dug ourselves into the Grand Canyon of holes in the last couple of years. So whatever we averted in 2008, we're going to have to deal with it in spades in 2011 or 2012. And that is why it is so important that we try to do something about reclaiming this liberty, because it is going to be under threat like never before. Because whenever there's a crisis, that's when the government usurps more and more of its powers. And it is going to be a crisis. And you better believe that it's going to be freedom that gets blamed for it, because it always gets blamed for it. No matter how much the government interferes in the economy, no matter how much damage it causes, it never gets the blame. It's always whatever little bits of capitalism remain. That's what gets the blame. And we need publics, we need more regulations, we need more rules. Well, then we need less freedom. We need more central government planning. That's not going to work. And it is going to get very, very difficult in this country, the environment. You're looking at the protests in Europe right now. But they're going to be worse here. Because when you have more people unemployed, and when they're confronted with a rising cost of living, what do you think is going to happen? And we could have, if you remember the 1970s, when we had the misery index, we had inflation, we had interest rates, we had all of them are going to be higher than they were. And it's happening at a time where the economy is fundamentally weak, because we've had a generation of this. We've gutted our manufacturing base, we've destroyed our savings, we've overregulated our economy, we're completely dependent on the charity of the rest of the world, because the world produces what we consume and they lend us the money to buy it. But all that's coming to an end, and it's important that we try to do something to spread this word and retake our legislatures, our Congress, so that we have some type of chance of restoring the liberty that the founding fathers risked their lives to deliver to us. I think, they would be shocked to see what happened to their republic in just a relatively short period of time. So we have to do something about it. And I think we don't have a lot of time. And it's hard to outvote the people that want something from government, the people who get a check from government, because their numbers are growing every day, and the number of people who are actually productive and paying the bills is shrinking. So before our numbers diminish too much, we have to take control of the situation. We have to create something. Hopefully, I know right after me, Gary Johnson is going to be speaking. And he's a potential candidate for the United States presidency in 2012. Like Gary Johnson in the White House and a lot of other people like him in our Congress, and maybe with your help, we'll get them. Thank you.